Well, hello everyone. This is DC with the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you this week for another podcast on Alabama football. Today in the podcast, in the first segment, we're going to take a look and review the game against Kentucky. In our second segment, we're going to state our players of the game in the Kentucky game. In our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming game against the Auburn Tigers. You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com. Well, here we go in the first segment of the podcast on Alabama football. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to listen to us. Lance and I certainly appreciate you tuning in each and every week. We had thousands of viewers last week, and it's always great to see so many people downloading the podcast and listening to the podcast. So remember to check out Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com, for some great pictures and videos on Alabama football. Well, today in the first segment, we're going to get right off to review the game against Kentucky. Alabama came out in Bryant-Denny Stadium this last Saturday and beat the Kentucky Wildcats 63-3. What a great performance, both on offense and defense. We're going to review that in this first segment. And let's start with the defense. A lot of people were giving the defense grief on those first couple of drives because we gave up some plays, we gave up some yardage. And I know some folks thought we had a little rust on us, but when you look at this Kentucky game and you look at the stats from this game, our defense played a really, really good game. We had a pick six in this game, and we really did a good job of holding Kentucky. Now, we put Kentucky in a situation where they had to throw the ball, and they didn't do a very good job of throwing the ball because that's not their main concern on offense. We held them to 120 yards on passing, and then in the rushing the ball, they didn't have a runner over 100 yards. We actually held them to 95 total yards rushing. So overall, this was a very good defensive performance. And when you look at the defense, yes, in the first couple of series, it looked like there was a lot of rust on us being laid off for 2 weeks. But the defense picked back up. And I just think that was a continuous opportunity to show how the defense is getting better. And I think what happened in this game is they continually got better over the game. And I believe that's just continuing to get up to speed. You know, you go 2 weeks off. They took a little bit to get back up to the speed of the game. And I think Alabama really did a good job on defense. Had a pick six in this game. We really did a good job of playing the ball on that pick six. We had other opportunities. They had some miscues on special teams where we had a good job of covering the ball and getting the turnovers on fumbles on the kicking game. So I think overall we did a really good job on special teams and did a really good job on defense in this game. I was very pleased with the defensive production of the entire defense going against this Kentucky offense. Well, the offense side of the ball, we didn't have the best game on offense. When you look at it, you say you scored 63 points. Why? How you say it wasn't a good offensive production? Well, it wasn't up to the standard that we've come to know lately the Alabama offense. Mac Jones made some questionable decisions in throwing the ball into certain receivers, especially on the deep ball that he threw, trying to get a touchdown home run pass. He just shouldn't have thrown that ball, and it ended up being an interception that stopped the drive. But he had some great throws. He made some great throws in the game, which he's been known to do. And I don't think he did anything to hurt his Heisman Trophy performance. He was 16 of 24 for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. That one interception was the glaring part. He didn't play the whole game. We rested him in the second or the last part of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter, and Bryce Young came in, did a really good job. But I think what really stood out to me was the offensive production on the ground game. We had multiple runners do very well. We had Najee Harris did a great job early on. He got 2 touchdowns. He had 13 carries for 83 yards, averaging 6.4 yards a carry. What more would you want him to do in this game? And he got to rest some because Brian Robinson came in. He had 6 rushes for 22 yards, averaging 3.7 yards a carry. He had a touchdown. After Brian Robinson came in and spelled Najee Harris for a while, we got to some of our younger backs. Jace McClellan comes in. He ends up being the leading rusher, 10 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown, 9.9 yard average. And then Roydell Williams. Roydell Williams comes in and gets 10 carries, and he rushes for 30 yards and a touchdown as well. So the ground game, in my opinion, on offense really shined in this game. And I think the credit of that starts up front. The credit has to start with our offensive line. I think our offensive line and our tight ends, and we were down a man tight end when it was found out right before game time that Miller Forstall was not going to be able to play due to some nagging injuries that he's had. He was going to be held out unless it was an emergency. So our tight ends blocked well, our wide receivers blocked well, and our offensive line blocked well, which caused our run game to be really, really good. So I was pleased overall with the offensive production. It wasn't a marquee game for our passing game, but the run game really, really looked good in this game. I think it sets us up well for our future games as coming up on our schedule as well. So overall, in review of the Kentucky, great victory, 63-3. Defense may have come out just a little sluggish, but really got things in order and did a great job of holding the Kentucky Wildcats both passing and rushing in this game really well. And we created some turnovers on special teams and got a pick six for a touchdown. So our kicking was well. Again, Real Reichard still is perfect in this game. And he kicked with multiple holders during this game, so that was good to get some. Paul Tyson got some playing time at holder in case we need him down the stretch. And then our punting was well. I think we had 2 punts, averaged 46 yards. That to me is a really well-rounded game. Charlie Scott seems to have come in and taken the punting game over, and he just did a really good job. I think he had 2 punts for 92 yards, averaging 46 yards. So overall, a great, well-rounded victory against these Kentucky Wildcats. Well, let's look at the second segment today. We're going to talk about our players from the game this past Saturday against the Kentucky Wildcats. Well, first on offense has to be Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith ended up being one of the co-SEC players of the week. He did a great job in this game. He caught almost everything that was thrown at him. He had an opportunity to catch. I think he was targeted about 11 times. He had 9 receptions for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. The deep ball that was intercepted was going to him as well, and just wasn't far enough or high enough for him to compete for that 50-50 ball in that game, in that play. But overall, a stellar game for Devonta Smith. Also, Slade Bolden was nicked up and injured with his ankle during the game, and Devonta Smith comes in and takes a punt return for a long gain back that sets us up with great field position. So Devonta Smith, in catching the ball, did really good. He caught he caught a short pass, which I would call a speed sweep. Did a good job running at the line of scrimmage, and then he did a good job of running the ball back on punt. So if Slade Bolden can't go against Auburn, look for Devonta Smith to be our return man in the punt game. So I think overall he's one of my standout players of the game on offense. My other standout player of the game on offense is someone we hadn't talked about a lot this year, and that is Jahleel Billingsley, number 19, tight end, long, athletic, good receiver, good blocking, good speed. He found himself open several times in this game, and he got the call late because they decided to hold out Miller Forstall due to some nagging injuries, and so Jahleel Billingsley really filled in well. So he's one of my outstanding players of the game on offense. It's good to have that speed threat at the tight end receiver, and did a good job of catching the ball. He had several receptions in this game. He had 3 receptions for 78 yards, so did a really good job for a tight end production on offense. So the other standout players of the game on offense, I'm going to give to the entire offensive line. We had 4 running backs that did so well in this game running the ball with multiple touchdowns. And this offensive line, to me, is probably one of the best offensive lines that Alabama has ever put on the field this year. Anchored by Landon Dickerson at center, Alex Leatherwood at your left tackle, and you got Evan Neal at the right tackle, Emil Ikior and Deontay Brown bookends at guard right around the center. You just can pick any place to run the ball, and you've got a great chance to run behind this offensive line. And then we put our jumbo package when we bring all of our tight ends in, which includes Major Tennyson and Carl Tucker, Jahleel Billingsley. Then we put Randolph in at that as well, and then McMillan in the fullback position. there, when you get all those in, you've got opportunities to really impose your will on the goal line. And it seems like Alabama's done a good job of getting those touchdowns this year when they get inside that 5-yard line. So this offensive line, again, did a great job. They're one of my outstanding players of the game. It has to be the entire offensive line. So on offense, you got Devonta Smith, Jahleel, Billingsley, and the entire offensive line. A couple of newcomers on offense, just to kind of give a shout out to, is Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. Expected that they might see some playing time in some games, but maybe not as much as they got in this game. Trey Sanders went down with the automobile accident. Heard today that he's recovering nicely from his surgery to his hip, but it's going to be a couple of months before he ever gets back to be able to do anything. So he's out for the season. And then you got two young freshmen, and Roydell Williams and Jace McClellan, and get the call. And Jace McClellan runs for 99 yards and does just a great job of getting open in space once he clears the line of scrimmage. And he got some speed on the top side. And Roydell Williams did a good job picking holes and really running hard. Both of them got touchdowns in this game. So just a little shout out on offense for the newcomers in Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. Well, on defense, my standout players of the game goes to one of my favorite defensive players, and that's Christian Barmore. I think he had one of his best games. He only had 2 tackles, and those were 2 tackles for loss in this game. But he did a really, really good job of maintaining his leverage when he was in on defensive line. Played well with the others to stop the run. Kentucky had a team that wants to run the ball up the middle to try to get the quarterback out on some of those fakes to the middle, and Christian Barmore wasn't fooled on any of those. He maintained his position, maintained his gaps, and did a really good job in this game. And my other standout player of the defensive side of the ball has to be Christian Harris. I think Christian Harris had his best game of the entire year. He had 8 tackles, he had 3 assists, and he had 1 sack. So Christian Harris was firing all over the field. A little concerning was Dylan Moses' production in this game. Not sure what happened, but he didn't have his best game of the year. But good thing Christian Harris steps up and really does a great job. So let's watch that thing for the next game and see where Dylan Moses is and if he can come back and have a good game against Auburn. But my standout players of the game on defense are Christian Barmore and Christian Harris. Well, that brings us to the third and final segment of the day. A game we always want to get to talking about, want to get to, and this year it's a little different. It doesn't come as the last game on our schedule. It's the Auburn Tigers and the Iron Bowl. Iron Bowl, Iron Bowl. That's what everybody wants to talk about this week. We can finally talk about the Iron Bowl. And I think you're going to hear a lot of that this week about this Auburn team is going to come in with a chance to derail the Alabama football team from its national championship run. That's what they're always talking about. Gus Malzahn has a tendency to come in and do some things, trick some people, trick some things and get some turnovers. They seem to be the luckiest team in football. They have everything go their way, so that's what they're going to need in this game against Alabama. And we're going to get their best game. They're going to come out all fired up and want to come in and want to derail this national championship team that Alabama has. So what does Alabama have to do in this game? What do we need to do? Well, first, I think we need to look on our defensive side of the ball and on offense to have one thing. We need to play mistake-free football on defense and mistake-free football on offense. If we can limit our mistakes, that means penalties and turnovers on both sides of the ball. I think that's the key to victory in this game. Last year in the Iron Bowl, we had 2 pick six in this game against Auburn, where we would have won the game without those pick sixes. So we can't have things like that stop the momentum of the game against Auburn. We have to play mistake-free football. We got to limit our penalties, and we got to limit our turnovers, both on offense and defense. Well, one thing we need to do also on defense is we need to continue to improve on and the momentum that we've gained on the defensive side of the ball, and continue to improve our play on the back end. I think in the last 2 games we've really done a good job with our secondary keeping up with some of the athletic receivers that the teams have had. But Auburn is going to bring some very good athletic receivers, very fast. Got probably the fastest man in football, Schwartz, on their side. He gets wide open and he can stretch the defense deep. Patrick Nix is a great quarterback. He has all the skills to get the ball where he needs to be. I think if Alabama is going to be successful on defense, we need to pressure the quarterback and get Patrick Nix rattled. when he gets rattled in a game, like we've seen him in the past games or so this year, the games that they've lost, he's gotten rattled with some pressure, and he's made some mistakes. And when he makes mistakes, he starts to blame people around him, and then it kind of goes off the rails. And if we're going to win this game, we need to pressure him on defense to get him to make throws that he doesn't need to make and get some mistakes. We need to play tight man-to-man coverage when we're in man-to-man on the outside receivers, bump and run coverage, or we need to play the zone if in the middle of the field to try to avoid some of those open receivers crossing the middle. So I think on defense, if we do that, if we limit our mistakes, limit our turnovers, limit our penalties, and then play our game on defense by pressuring the quarterback, then that's going to set us up for the final cog on our defense, and that is stop the run. Auburn's got two big running backs that they run the ball to. Number one, Tank Bigsby. He is the guy this year they've gone to on the run. He's a little nicked up, a little banged up. Not sure if he's going to play, but my guess would be that he's going to play. If you can walk in this game and against Alabama, you want to play. You've grown up all the time wanting to beat Alabama, so I think he's going to play in this game. And that running game is going to be critical to let Auburn do what they want to do. If we can stop the run, and that means our man-on-man helmet on helmet up front. If we can impose our will and win the line of scrimmage and stop the run, then I think the Auburn Tigers are going to have a long day trying to get anything done against this Alabama defense. So we got to improve or keep the momentum going, limit our mistakes, create some turnovers, pressure the quarterback, and stop the run. If we do that on defense, I think we're going to set up for a long day for these Auburn Tigers as they come into Bryant-Denny Stadium. Well, let's look on the offensive side of the ball. What do we need to do on offense? Well, I think Mac Jones needs to come out and play Mac Jones football and take what the defense gives him. If we get back to running those RPOs, he did a good job of a couple of plays in this game doing that. Run the RPOs, take the run when they give us the run, take the pass when they try to take the run away. And then let that run the ball set up our play action passing downfield. If we do that, if we limit our mistakes and Mac Jones plays within himself, he could be on a national stage, an opportunity for everybody watching this rivalry game to be able to really get some good downfield passes in this game. I think Devonta Smith has a good game. I think John Mechie steps up, has a good game. Watch for Jahleel Billingsley to maybe get into the passing game even more since of his production in the Kentucky game. And I think freshman Javon Baker has his come-out game against the Auburn Tigers. And I know maybe people aren't expecting much from him, but Slade Bolden is a little banged up. He has tweaked his ankle, may not practice through Wednesday. Coach Saban's usual condition is you got to practice at least by Thursday for you to be able to play in the game. So let's see what happens to Slade Bolden. If he doesn't get the start, watch for Javon Baker to get the start in his place and maybe have his first come-out game against these Auburn Tigers. So the other guy we haven't talked about is Najee Harris. I think if there's ever a game that Najee Harris needs to assert himself, it's in this game. He's got a great confidence in this offensive line. We saw him high-fiving and slapping on the back all the offensive linemen after he gets his touchdowns because he's got a great confidence offensive line. This offensive line is going to probably go against one of the toughest defensive lines we've faced all year. If we can impose our will early on, then we can impose our will in the fourth quarter. And I think if we do that, Najee Harris has a chance to have a big game against the Auburn team, as big a game as he had against Mississippi. And if he puts up those kind of numbers against this good defensive Auburn team, then we got a chance for Najee Harris to sneak into that Heisman race against Mac Jones. And it might be a four-man race, and two of them might be Alabama football players. So I think Alabama's going to have a good game overall. We're going to establish the run. We're going to pass when they give us the pass, and we're going to be pretty balanced on offense this game with good amounts of rushes and good amounts of passing yards. Devonta Smith's going to have a big game. He may even break a big one in the return game if he gets to play for Slade Bolden and the punt team. So watch for him to make a big play in the special teams and on offense in this game. Well, I think Auburn comes out and really does a good job and gets some points in this game early on. But then I think overall Alabama takes this game and runs away, wins it handily. I think Alabama beats the Auburn Tigers in Bryant-Denny Stadium on the final score of 52-27. Well, that's all we have this week for the DC Capstone Report, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We remember that the Auburn game is not the last game of the season, of the regular season, so we'll have a game next week against Arkansas. So tune in next week after the Auburn game for our podcast as we review the Auburn game and preview the upcoming game against Arkansas. So, well, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for always listening to us. Again, Alabama comes off a big victory against Kentucky, 63-3, rolls that momentum right against the Auburn Tigers and beats Auburn 52-27. We'll see you back next week. And until then, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report, signing off with a big Roll Tide.